We are assembled here for a family reunion. We obtained a video camera and we're hoping that we will be able to get everyone who is here today onto this. What we thought would be nice to do is to get a number of stories of the family, stories that they tell often and laugh about. It will be priceless in years to come, and I'm sure give us a lot of pleasure and enjoyment. So take it away. So I'm first. I'm Tricia, and the daughter of Betty, and my father Jack is here. My husband Steve is on camera, and my daughter Rebecca is outside throwing a frisbee. We're here at the family reunion in Twin Falls, Idaho. At the
That's right.
Well, even if it goes funnier, you can't remember. At least you're on it.
Just shoot and go right by me.
Right.
I've started already.
He started already.
Hi, Steve.
Okay, Mom and Dad.
I don't have anything to say. I don't know anything.
Well, how do you feel about being back home here in Idaho? How did you feel when you got off the plane in Salt Lake and started driving?
I was just thrilled.
She made us stop the car and got out, and she went down and prayed in front of a sagebrush and took a little piece and brought it into the car.
So they can all smell it.
This is exactly what we want on this tape. You're doing great.
And it smells great, I'm telling you.
Right.
It's still in your blood.
It certainly is.
Now move it along, Steve.
All right.
As far.
We are to have you arrive, my goodness.
I have done my duty. I saved the fork.
Your back is to the camera. Turn to the camera.
He saved the
Look at
fork.
that.
Say that again.
I saved the fork. My one mind, that's all I get.
Okay. Florence,
She said hers.
I already said mine.
what'd you say?
I said I was so happy to have you all here.
Oh.
It's a wonderful occasion.
Okay, Dave?
Well, I'm happy to be here.
This is a really smart.
Don't get too in-depth now.
No, I thought it was really nice, especially last night, to come in and see all my aunts and uncles were all together in one place. That's
Right,
That's
right.
great.
No, it was a
It's special.
Very special.
So do you get together like that every year with that number of
We'd
people?
like to.
But you don't. I mean, you
Now,
don't.
when you don't come, we
We're
don't.
not
But when we don't come, you still have all of the
Oh, yes.
cousins
Now,
and
4th of
children.
July is always a big day.
They're always big.
Always has been.
Oh,
Most
Most
of
of
us
us don't get here that soon.
I see.
Not every year.
There are
Three or
been
four
many,
years
many
maybe.
times. We've had 50 or more.
Who's he looking at?
This is the biggest one you've had.
I think he's looking at you. No,
We
he's
used to have
not.
50 or more at the cabin.
Well, also, we ought to remember that this
Well, years
is
ago,
July
I
the
think it was
4th,
about 100.
1984.
I said that in the intro.
They just said,
Pat, could you control
Yes.
things a little?
Whit, do you want to say your relationship?
Well, I'm married to Jamie, better known as Eleanor. Jamie is short for Jameson. And I was just saying that when we were married some 28 years ago, 28? Not longer than that, 38.
10 years difference.
The picnics were a lot bigger, but this is the biggest one that I can remember in quite a few years.
Have you always had them at the houses here, or have you gone to
one
parks?
time we
Or
went up to the fort,
gone up
up
to
north.
Sun Valley?
I think I've been in every park in town. We've been in the Shoshone Park, Twin Falls Park, and the City Park at least 3 years I
We used to have
know.
many of them at the cabin.
Yeah, and the cabin, I've been up there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Well, Nick,
Yeah?
what can you remember?
Well, this is the biggest reunion we've had since I think I left home for college. It's really neat to see everybody. I was looking at some films the other night of old films we've got down at Twin Falls when Grandma and Grandpa were still alive. That's been like probably 30 years ago. And it was really fun to be here again with everybody.
What, motion picture films?
Right.
They can be put into videotape, can't they? Somebody told me they could.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. See, even if you don't have a video machine now, you may one day, and we can make copies of this.
Gee, that'd be nice.
Everybody will have it, see?
Good, we
A
have
lot of
one, you
businesses
can
do
make
that
copies.
Good. Well, we don't have one ourselves yet.
We don't either.
We thought we were going to buy one. We did this with his parents 6 months ago, and it just turned out great. Everybody loved it. But it was embarrassing, just like this. Yes, Judy?
Well, I'm Judy, Nick's wife, and I can hardly believe that we've been coming over here for 23 years now. Been married 22, right? It's about 23 years. And everybody just seems like family. Been on another generation's upon us.
Ralph?
Well, I'm gonna have to get sad. My second.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether you realize it's a lost family. It's a wonderful reunion.
Right.
I had another wonderful woman this last winter and lost her in 30 days.
Yeah.
When you have two of the finest gals in the world and still alone, it's kind of rough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I'm here with my kids.
Right, right. Well, this is one reason we wanted to come out here too. You know, we lost my brother Robert, and we're going to start weeping now. But you know, it made us more than ever appreciate family and realize the need to be with them as much as you can. Donna, Beverly,
That's not you say. Say now, here we are.
Not a done once in a while.
That's okay, I'm proud of him anyway. Well, I am the youngest daughter of, the second daughter of the W.O. Jackies. Now, I'm not even gonna tell my name, you just have to look it up and read it. And I think this is really super neat. I haven't seen Tricia since we came back from Europe. Well,
Since she was dancing with the president.
that's right,
Love
so she
it.
was dancing with the president.
That's right.
President Johnson.
65,
back to Lyndon
66,
Baines,
somewhere
right.
around there.
And we have never met Steve, so that's really neat.
Yeah, we'll have to get Steve in this. Somebody will have to trade with you.
Now that
He
I
can
met
take care of
Sarah's
film
ready.
himself, he's doing pretty good.
Right, right. Okay, Beverly?
Well, I don't know what to say.
You're the elder, intelligent.
You've never been lost for work.
Say something intelligent after what we've done.
Save us, huh?
I guess that I'm the next to the oldest grandchild of the Jackies.
That's right.
And I've had some really fun times with this family. In fact, I think about this family when I think about all the fun things that ever happened. And there certainly were a lot of fun things that we've done over the years. And I was thinking about you and your folks and how much fun we had the year that I was in my internship back
Right,
there.
right.
And I came down and spent that week while you were all sick.
Did you nurse us back to health?
I know I talked to your mother and she said, well, you can come if you want to, but we're all sick. And I said, well, it doesn't make any difference whether I stay here or go down there. Everybody's sick wherever I
What was it? The flu or
Beverly life story, huh?
That's what she gets for being in the hospital.
Well,
Right.
no, not really. It was the first time that they had the Asian flu in the United States, and everybody was sick. And all the interns that I was with were sick, and all the student nurses and the residents were sick. And here I was, healthy as you could be.
I tell you,
So I
I
decided to go.
hate to have my relatives all the way back in Baltimore, but it's sure neat when you get on the East Coast and get sick, which I did in Washington. And have a lord in the storm.
Somebody to put you to bed.
Right.
Well, just
All
keep that
about
in mind. If the Easton gets sick, call us.
you just want to come on vacation and visit us, see?
I think that when I went back, I had never been out of New York City. And I told your folks, or told Aunt Betty and Uncle Jack, that I'd be on the train at 1 o'clock. And I got in a taxi to New York, and I said to the man, I want to go to Pennsylvania Station. And I had no idea where Pennsylvania Station was. So he took the long way, and I missed the train.
She wanted to
And
be
I
fair.
had to wait an hour for the next train, and so you had to wait an hour for me at the train station.
Right.
And but I soon learned that when you went to New York, that you learned where, just like anywhere else, you wanted to go. And when you got in a taxi, you said, "Hey, I want to go down East River Drive, not through Central Park."
Ralph can sit.
I want to get in there, they don't want me out.
Look at me.
Wait a minute, we got one person not in it
Yes.
yet. Come on.
Okay.
Come on, Bob, you
Come
gotta.
on.
Where we go?
What's
the red light?
What's the name?
Means it's on.
You better get up there.
Ralph just did it.
Oh, you don't get there.
We need,
That's Warren.
Warren, come.
Get up there.
In the chair.
Right behind your mammy.
Do you have the sound on now?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Thanks, you want to tell a good story.
Be sure and give them your best programs.
That means it's on.
It's on.
Okay, now,
I forgot to.
everybody, we
I
need
my
to
nose.
pretty much speak one at a time because it's hard to pick it up otherwise. When you come on camera, just say who you are and maybe tell a little bit of some story you remember or whatever. And if you can't think of anything to say, don't be embarrassed.
Choose
just
somebody
keep
to
going.
start, Pat.
Okay, Howard.
Me, all right. I'm Howard Jacky.
And you've got to get Betty and Bob there,
And I'm-
the twins.
That's right.
This is my little twin.
Only I'm the oldest.
I heard you used to
I
take
remember when we grew up, well, they were sure an ornery pair, too. Both of them.
I wouldn't be there.
There's two against you, Howard.
Vern and I had to babysit them all the time.
Yes, we did. We babysat the twins, but this one over here was the one that hit me on the head with the croquet mallet.
Oh, I got one of those, too.
What else did he do, Howard?
Oh, lots.
I tell you, I got a little story to tell if you
Good.
got time to listen.
Sure.
Yeah.
I went up to Spokane a couple years ago and they cut me open for a heart operation. And they went and dug up an old rusty chainsaw. The chain was all rusty and everything, and cut me from my teeth down to my toenails. And then a while back I was to the back doctor and he took some x-rays of me, so I got to see how they put me back together. And you know, they went and got some old rusty baling wire, and they stuck it through my ribs, and they took a pair of pliers and they just twisted it like they was putting a fence together. And the funny thing about it, they up here at the top one, while they run out of rusty baling wire, so they got some barbed wire. And that darn piece of barbed wire, it's coming through up here. And I feel it poking me every once in a while.
That's what's hurting your back, huh?
Yeah, and that kind of hurts my back too.
I thought you were going to tell us that they left the chainsaw in you.
Well, I have a few of them pains, like I think maybe they left some pliers or something in there that they used to twist the wire with.
Well, you're up in northern country. That's lumber company's country up there, so they don't know what else.
Okay, Roger?
I'm Roger Lewis, and I belong to Fern, and we've lived here ever since when? And we're very happy.
48 years.
48 years. That's when, isn't it?
That's when.
And I'm little cousin Eleanor. And they would never let me stay all night at the Jackies because the girls. No, it wasn't that. They just said I had to play with the boys and they wouldn't let me stay with the boys and the girls didn't want me to stay all night. But now, that's the truth.
What boys you talking about?
All, well, probably you were a
I
little too
remember
old.
coming over and wanting to play with us.
You were fooling around. Lester remembers. And as he was rambling on about that story, I just thought of what Bob said about him this morning and when he said, you're going to have to bring him because he just keeps talking and talking, and as long as it's not on his nickel, you'll never get him shut up. The only troublemaker, huh, Bob?
Yeah, I'll say. That's the only problem. Bob, he called me on the phone one time and then he hung up, and he said call him back. The connection wasn't too hot, so
No, I guess he got a hold of Joe. Joe,
wasn't there.
yeah, and then Joe told me to call him back. So I called him back. And gosh, I talked to him, and I thought, gosh, that guy gonna talk all night. Then after I finally cut it off, I thought, well, we talked long enough, and I decided he was on my nickel instead of his.
You're a little bit slow there, figuring that all out.
Yeah.
Marjorie?
I'm Marjorie, and I'm her little sister. And the reason we didn't let her come is because she was a tattletale.
I was a crybaby, I was not a tattletale.
Yeah, she cried a lot, you know. And so now it's Ron's time.
Who, me?
Yeah, my cousin.
Do you remember your name?
No, I have so many names, I don't know which one I'm
Hurry,
going.
Raleigh.
Well, I'm Rollin Jacky, and I'm was the third one down, and I was one that was most picked on.
Oh.
And I,
You want to introduce your family here?
well, here's my son Lester, and Myron, and wife Vivian,
And other son,
the other son's Warren.
Warren. Can you
I got another.
Hey, don't do that.
pan around there on Warren?
Where's the other one?
There's another son.
He's outside.
He's outside.
Playing volleyball. We'll catch him with the next when they're done, huh? Okay, Vivian? Do you
Well, I don't believe that story about his sisters picking on him. I really think it's the other way around. He'd tease them and then they didn't like it, and that's how he got picked on.
Sounds more true to life. Okay.
I'm Barbara Jacky, Howard's wife. I joined a family which have all been wonderful to me, and I was an only child, and they mean a great deal to me.
She's still overwhelmed.
Yes. That's it.
Anna Mae?
I'm Anna Mae Jacky, I'm Lester's wife. We've been married for
Your what's your
37
name?
years.
What's your face?
Oh, yes, I'm what's her face. What's her face? Marge there. We've lived in Mesa, Washington for the last 28 years, and we had 4 children.
Or head for.
Now we had 4 children.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they got black cats.
And they're handsome.
And black
Yes.
caps.
Black
Oh,
cats.
boy.
All right, we're going to get them in the next group, hopefully, the ones you brought with you. Gladys?
I'm Gladys, Jacky, Elmer, and I'm the fourth one down. And 10 to go, I used to always say. And I live in Mesa, Arizona.
Here.
Boulevard. Somebody should give, you want a nail to stick it in,
Move
girl?
her another inch and let her sit there.
Bye-bye, you have to remember that.
Okay.
See, now he sinks down and you're up on
All
the
right.
edge.
That's right.
Steve has it on. You are on
See,
camera,
your shoulders are about
everybody.
the edge. Now you can look down on your son. It's probably
Gladys,
ready
why
to
don't
do it.
you,
He's taking
I
pictures
know,
all
he
the
is.
time.
Why don't you finish up?
To continue where I broke the camera. My big brother was fun to play with when we grew up. He was afraid of trash machine whistles. And
Who's that?
and his dad. And my little brother Lester, I threatened him to put his head in the ditch and turn his hair red and curly. That slowed him down.
Harley.
And we used to take care of Bob and Betty. They were neat. And we had a lot of fun.
Okay, Doris?
I'm next.
Yeah. And why don't you introduce your family too? And
I'm Doris Bryden. I live in Pocatello, and I'm the oldest grandchild of this family. This is my son Bill. He's a student at the University of Utah now. And next to him is my daughter-in-law, Kitty. And with Harley, who's my first grandchild. And Tim, my other son.
We're related. We love each other a lot. We really do. I don't care what anybody says.
Tim had to work today, so he couldn't come. So So Harley's here and Kitty in Tim's
And
place.
we'll get Bill in the next scene if we can.
And my husband Bill is out playing volleyball.
Oh, that Bill, that Bill,
Yeah,
right. Right.
What else can we say, Bill? What do you want to say?
I love the vacation.
Okay, Daryl?
I'm Daryl Lewis, and I lived in Twin Falls, Idaho all my life, and I'm the son of Vern and Roger Lewis.
Oh, yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
say who
yeah.
I was.
Yeah, tell who you're the,
Yeah, me?
yeah, what's your
You
connection?
want to finish Daryl first?
No, I got back to you.
You're back here. Okay, I'm the daughter of Carl and Florence Weaver.
And you are the oldest
I'm
of the
the
cousins.
oldest of the cousins.
In fact, you played more with my mother, Betty, and I think you did some of the
Well,
younger-
I'm 5 years younger than Betty and Bob, and 5 years older than Beverly, so I sort of was in the middle.
limbo.
Yeah.
Daryl, why don't you tell us something about your hobbies, like those great cars
My
you have
hobbies
out?
are restoring antique cars and driving them in parades
And what happened when you were restoring the Corvette?
my Corvette always has problems with paint jobs, so.
But I heard something about a toolbox.
Yes, my toolbox fell over on my new paint.
After 2 years of work.
After 2 years of hard work.
Oh, gee. And you're still with the same hobby.
Right.
Have a lot of guts. Okay, next. Just say who you are.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, say something?
Just say who you are.
Me, I'm Warren Jacky. I don't know what to say.
Where do you live?
All over.
Well, you say you're Raleigh's son, right?
Yeah.
And you live in Jerome, Idaho?
Yeah, I live over Jerome.
You know, I think, isn't he the oldest, the first great-great-grandchild? I think he is.
Who? Harley?
Harley.
The first great.
Of, you know, like
I think so.
Grandma and Granddad Jackie, he'd
Right,
be the very
right.
first.
You're right.
This
You would
guy-
have to be
this guy
because
right
you are
here.
the oldest cousin.
Uh-huh. And
Okay,
I don't
right.
think that,
Right.
Well, no, there are other grandkids.
And you know who your parents are, so we'll get the connection, you know. And if you have any help and you get shy, we're all here to help each other, okay? So, and then you'll be able to see yourself. We'll play it back and you can see yourself. All right? I sit here. Do we have everybody now? I guess we do. Steve, is that? Yeah. He started. See the red light going? That means you are on right now. So why don't we start?
I can't see somebody in back of Tammy.
In back of Tammy?
Thank you, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, don't hide anybody. Donna, why don't you start? Okay. Say who you are and introduce your family and so on.
Alright. I'm Donna Jacky. This is my boy Bobby and my daughter Kate. I'm Dave Jackie's wife. This is my father-in-law, Lester.
Okay.
Keep going.
Where do you live? We're from Vancouver, Washington, across from Portland, Oregon.
Okay. You want to?
And tell us something about the family, something you remember about long ago, a story or something.
Well, we were married 12 years ago up in Vancouver, Washington, and many of these same people came again, so it's really great to see them this many years later.
We all look the same?
Pretty much.
Okay, you want to start and say who you are?
I'm Julie Davis. My mother's Jacky Morgan, which she's in Portland now looking for a place to live. My grandmother is Marjorie Dunbar, and my great-grandmother was Lucille Jamerson.
And we got them in the last tape. You'll see them too. We'll play it back. Okay, Rebecca? Just say who you are.
My name is Rebecca Weiler, and I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And
Who's your mother and dad?
that's my dad.
Where?
Thanks. Good try.
That's my mom.
Okay, you're Betty, Jacky Marvin's granddaughter. Okay. Anything you want to say?
No.
No? Okay, next.
I'm Wendy Jacky.
Can you speak a little louder?
I'm Wendy Jacky. I'm from Jerome.
And who's your dad?
My dad's Jack.
And where is he?
Who's your grandfather?
Who is your grand?
Jack. And my mom's Jackie. Becky.
Okay. Anything you want to say? No? Next?
Okay, I'm Lisa Blackburn, and I'm from Caldwell, Idaho, and Mary and Donna Blackburn are my parents, and my grandpa is Ralph Newberry, and I'm not there.
You think you're getting any of this, or are they too soft?
They're soft.
Okay. Can you all speak even louder? Okay.
Lisa, tell them who your grandma was.
Helen Newberry.
No, Jacky
Helen
Newberry.
Okay. Bill and Becky, you take over. So just say who you are and.
Bill Jacky, Dad's Bob Jacky, Gage Jacky on the end of the couch, my daughter Wendy, this is my wife Rebecca Jacky.
Well, I cannot see.
Where? Oh, you
There
can
we go.
see her?
Well, now I can see her.
Okay.
Couldn't find her. We live in Jerome, Idaho.
How long you been married?
Too long.
This is for posterity now.
Before I get it on tape, in case of accidents. Oh, how long has it been? 13, 14, 15 years? Time
Wow.
flies.
Boy, that's longer than we. 13, yeah. So, Becky, you want to?
He said it all.
Bill?
I'm on the local volleyball team, Jacky. Of course, won 2 games.
That's not fair.
Carl Weaver here is my father-in-law, and Florence Jacky Weaver is my mother-in-law, and my wife is someplace in the neighborhood.
We had her in the last tape.
My daughter-in-law and grandchild are roaming around here. That's Harley and Kitty. And like someone said, this crew seems to keep going. We've got lots of people.
That's right, the hot, sweaty group today. Carl?
My name is Carl Weaver. I'm the husband of Florence Jacky Weaver. We were married 55 years ago, almost.
Here she is back here. Come on up here.
I'm right here.
We have a daughter, Doris. And
I'm the oldest of this wonderful family. It's been quite a trial, but a lot of fun.
Okay, who do we have here?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I quit having Jacky. I do mechanic work. And my 2 brothers, Myron and Warren Jacky's outside.
They were on the last tape, I
Well,
think.
and Rollin. And Warden over there, Damien Jacky.
he was on the losing volleyball team.
He was. Huh?
The losing team.
No. Oh, we won a few.
Okay.
We did break it even.
Next.
I'm Joe Jacky, and my dad and my mom are over there. They're Lester and Anna Jacky. And
Joe is the youngest grandchild.
yeah, I'm the
That's
youngest
right.
grandchild
That's
of,
W.O. and Sadie Jacky.
yeah.
That's right.
I'm Gage Jacky. My mom and dad are over there, and my sister's over there.
Okay.
How old are you? Okay.
Susan?
Okay, I'm Susan Jacky Moeller. My husband is behind you.
Can you swing around and get him, Steve?
Yeah, come on, Kenny. Sit over here.
Okay, let her
I'm not the
let him
loser.
come in.
Sit down.
We needed a little action in the
Yeah,
middle of this.
okay. And this
Okay.
is our son Brian and my daughter Jan. And this is her friend Leanne Fleming from Jerome. My
With a
father is
broken
Bob
leg.
Jacky.
Okay.
Hurting me.
Tammy?
Hi, I'm Tammy Turner, and my parents are Rich and Linda Turner, and my grandma and grandpa are Lester and Anna Mae Jacky.
Okay, did we miss any of the children in here? Did everyone speak? You didn't speak, did you yet?
You just
Say
got
who you
top
are.
row.
Go ahead.
How about Bobby?
Real
Bobby?
loud.
Just tell me you are.
Come on, Bobby, say hi. I'm Bobby.
Tell them how old you are, Bobby.
You're 2.5, that's right. What's your name?
You're one of the cousins.
Did you take it to her? Cake.
Oh, cake. Are you Cake Jacky?
She made a cake for you out in the ditch. My fun.
Oh, pancake, yeah. That was real nice. You made a pancake. Why is your name Kate?
Sit with Tammy. Okay, we are now taping.
My name's Tap Blackburn, and my grandmother's a Jacky.
Well, who's your mother and father?
Larry and Donna.
Okay, and Donna was the daughter of Helen and Ralph.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you want to,
That's alright.
no stories to remember? Okay, next.
I'm Matt, and my relation to the Jacky family is Grandma Newberry, Helen Newberry.
Okay, who's your mom and dad?
Beverly Krabs and Earl Krabs.
Okay, and your other brothers are not here. You want to say who they are?
Scott Krabs and Chris Krabs.
All right, how old are you?
15.
15. Any fun things you can remember you've done with this family, or or that you can repeat? Nothing, huh? Okay, lively crew, this crowd. Go ahead.
I'm Bill Sturgill. I'm married to a cousin of the Jackies.
Okay, go ahead. You're married to who?
Ruth Griggs.
And how are you related, Ruth?
How do you mean to him?
To the Jackies.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm practically a member of the Jacky family. I know Nellie Griggs is my mother, was a sister of Sadie Jacky.
Ah, okay.
And every time my parents would go to town, I'd say, let me stop and play. So I played with the Jackies. Aunt Sadie was wonderful to me. She always put another plate on the table and says, okay, Ruth, here you are. You can sit right here and eat with us. And there was always enough, and it was a wonderful, wonderful childhood that we had.
Who did you primarily play with? Who was there at the time?
Well, there was my Gladys and Fern and Howard.
You have any funny
Raleigh.
stories about them?
Can you remember anything?
Oh, I should say. But I need
Well,
Gladys
say.
here to prime me. She said that she shouldn't have been with me, so we could tell about all the old times.
I'll have to get her down.
But anyway, I have no family left except my own children. So I feel like that I really belong there.
And I think you do. Definitely. Earl?
Yes, I'm Earl Krabs, and I'm married to Ralph and Helen Newberry's oldest daughter, Beverly. We have 3 sons. You just met one of them, Matthew. And Christopher and Scott are home taking care of the house right now. I'm sure they would enjoy themselves if they were here. They both wanted to come. And this is a typical family gathering. The first time Beverly ever brought me to a gathering, she said, it's just a small family gathering. And I came up here and there was about 75 people around picnic tables. And I was totally terrified. And that was a small family gathering.
I see. Well, have you gotten used to them by now?
Oh, yes. They're all wonderful people, and it's a totally interrelated family, and they have something very dear to each other, and it's always enjoyable to see them.
Very special. Yes.
Very special.
Okay, and we have the 3 lovely ladies here again. Do you have anything that you can talk about or remember? Not this time either? Tammy?
Hey, Kate. Kate.
Came out and went look at the camera there.
Look at me.
Smile. Say hi, I'm Kate. Hi, I'm Kate.
Kate, take your hands.
Did you get that was Pretty Bird Jackson. Pretty Bird Jackson. Pretty Bird Jackson.
Why? Well, then it'd be right in front of your faces.
Well, she only looked at me.
Well, if you look down, I'll sit here. I got one.
Boy, I guess we shift again,
Here.
Ralph.
I think so.
This is high, and I think you'll be. Can you sit in here? And
I'm
sit?
not gonna move. Shift over. I'm not gonna move till you're sure you're in the right spot.
Oh, all right. You sit there.
So many
Sit there.
times there.
There we are.
Would one of you like this high chair in the back?
Smile, you're on camera.
Dad?
No, I'm all right.
All right, what I'll do is.
It's not gonna take long.
It's another hour.
Well,
Where's the makeup?
all right. Now, what happened is I'll be shining this around because the color's not good without it. I hope it's better with it. Oh, you are on.
Oh, we're on
Oh,
camera?
goody.
Good, look at that.
Now,
blinking.
what we wanted to do was to just, if you remember interesting stories, anything you want to relate, try not to make it too long or we'll cut in on you. Anyone want to start?
No.
Well, Florence has never said a thing.
Florence.
You didn't listen to me.
Oh, what's too long?
When you see me going like this.
Okay, you're on, don't stop.
I'm Florence May Jacky Weaver. And I'm the oldest of 10 children, and I was born in Iowa, Milford, Iowa. And my sister next to me, Helen, was born in Milford, Iowa, and my brother was born in Milford, Iowa. Then we moved to Idaho, and we've lived in Idaho since. And we've had more fun. Growing up, we just had a ball, our family. It was fun.
I was the first one born in Idaho, and I'm the only one born in a shack.
In a shack.
And so that's a privilege.
You're right.
And I don't know if we have any.
And the roof leaked.
Right, we put pails under when the roof leaked. And I can remember the curtains and getting behind the curtains when I was a little kid when somebody'd come to the door and
Bashful?
bashful. Still am.
Oh,
We still put pails under the
We had,
right, we sure do.
and our old home place is all
Did
gone
not
now.
long
It is
ago.
it is a rest home, but at the time I saw all our, everything's gone from where we used to play.
The old house is still out there, there's none of that place.
No, it doesn't look like it.
They turned on all the school out.
This thing is off.
They built some more schoolhouses out there.
I couldn't see the light.
No, it's still going.
Yeah, it's flickering.
It's still going. You're on.
You're going.
All right, Raleigh.
Well, who has the funny stories?
As far as that old shack's concerned,
I don't think Bob said
there wasn't
anything.
enough chairs to go around, so I was picked on the most that I had to sit on the after.
I think somebody ought to tell about Raleigh and Vivian's wedding day. I really think that now that's something that somebody ought to tell about.
Maybe Vivian ought to.
Why don't Raleigh tell about it?
He
They were married on January 1st.
You remember that?
You bet I remember that day, because we'd been out to about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and Lester was late getting out to milking his cows, but Helen calls and says, I think that Raleigh's getting married today. Nobody's really sure, that he's getting married, but who was it? Fern was to be right or stand up with him or something or
Roger
other.
and I.
You and Roger.
No,
And-
my friend,
Who was it?
Lois Russell
and Roger.
stood up with
Okay.
us.
But anyway, the word got to us that they were to be married that day. And so we hurried around and got the cows milked and got over to Twin Falls and got there to the wedding. And we had a reception that afternoon at the Jacky home. And somebody knew somebody that we could get in to get some cakes, and we managed to get more frosting on these cakes. We shaped them up to look like a wedding cake, and we had a party that afternoon for it. And I think that's something that had to be told.
I heard Howard was telling a good story outside.
Well,
Go ahead.
that,
What's that?
I was telling the cat story that doesn't have much to do with our growing up.
No.
I was going to say that I played Dan Cubitt at Lester and Anna Mae's wedding too. They probably never got married if it hadn't been for me. I borrowed my new car to go on their honeymoon. That was the only reason Anna Mae would marry him.
Well, she
Well,
didn't
did you tell how that you chaperoned us from all the way from Twin Falls to Salt Lake City too on our honeymoon? And not only that, what was it? 2 o'clock we get into Salt Lake, and then Lester takes you out to Tooele, and then comes back. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning.
And she was fast asleep.
You heck, I was asleep.
Well, that's nothing. Betty and Jack wouldn't have been married if it wasn't for me.
How's that? Tell that one. I'd like to
She
hear
came
it.
down to stay with me at Hamilton Field in California.
Oh, that's
Where she met Jack.
And you gave your approval, didn't you?
Right.
so glad.
Jack was being sent overseas, and he came down, and he said, well, I'm going to leave in just a half an hour. And back he'd go, and he'd say goodbye to Betty, and then he'd go back. And pretty soon back he'd come, well, they aren't going to go for another hour. Pretty soon I said, well, Jack, you want to eat dinner? And he was happy. So he sat down and we had dinner, and then about after that, well, shortly after that, why?
And we met in the movie house.
Yeah.
Remember how we used to go to the movies? And
We went to, Betty and the girlfriend that stayed with her by the name of Lynn, they'd go to the 8 o'clock show, and we'd go to the 6 o'clock show. And so there was always...
Because I had to do the dishes.
Right. Well, you remember Lynn wanted to pay me more and then let me do all the work?
Yes, and you said no.
I said, no way.
Do you have stories you can remember about your parents?
Well, what about Florence? Let's tell us something about her.
Well, let's
She
tell
did. I remember I went to school one morning and then I come home and I didn't know nothing about anything. Mom says, Florence getting married. First time I known about it.
I had to break the ice.
And by God, and that's all.
Well, you must have known earlier than
No, I
did.
didn't think
You did too, because I remember Florence walking out the door and says, well, I'm getting married. And slammed the door before anybody could say anything.
What about
We were all
Ralph
sitting-
getting
These
married?
Jackies are sudden people, aren't they?
What about Helen and Ralph?
Well, I remember them.
She had a nice wedding at the house.
I remember, that's my first remembrance of anybody getting married.
And she had a
Helen
big
and Ralph.
bouquet of yellow roses.
A real tin can car to get away with that.
It took me 2 days to get them all off there. As long as I owned that truck, you could be just married across the windshield and on all the windows. They used a Lysol. It etched right into the glass.
Howard's work hard and just married all over it.
For 2 years while Ralph was courting Helen, every time they would go out, Raleigh would carry her trunk out and put it on the porch, and then Helen and Ralph would come home from this date, and he'd have to help Helen carry the trunk back in the bedroom.
He didn't want her there.
And so, on their 50th wedding, we fixed a great big package for Helen and Ralph, and we put trunk on it, printed trunk on it, and then Raleigh got to help carry that into their house, so.
Was Raleigh there in time to carry it in?
Well, we
Just
couldn't
barely.
find him.
Just barely.
No, barely, he got there in time to see it.
What I want to know is that, I think it was on the 25th wedding anniversary party of Fern and Roger, I got to officiate remarrying as the preacher. And I understand in 2 years they're going to have the 50th. Do I get to do it again?
You still got your credentials?
I think they're as good now as they were then.
Let's give him the job.
You're appointed.
Well, they tell me that it doesn't cost too much to send out to California. You can get a minister's license to practice in
That's in August, isn't it?
What denomination you gonna be?
Well, maybe I better send away for that license.
Well, you never
Find out.
said whether you went back overseas or not, did you?
You could be a holy roller or something.
Went overseas and came back and met her again in California.
Oh, you did?
But I don't understand. All these other people, they get married so quick. It took me a long time to convince her.
It took him he and I
He
a long
called me up
time.
from clear across country and said, will you marry me? And I was on a phone in the hall in the hospital.
You said yes.
All the student nurses were there listening. Are you going to? I said, no. So then he came out to California.
Where were you when you called?
He was in South Carolina.
You were in
I
South
didn't even have to call that far.
Long distance?
She wasn't going to marry you unless he came and got her.
Or did she call you?
Well, see, he hunted around. He hunted around California, and Betty was the best one. He went over to the South Pacific and couldn't find anybody. He goes back to his hometown, he can't find anybody.
Here's my last chance.
You said everybody got married so quick. We went together in 25 and got married in 30.
Oh, well,
5 years.
5 years.
Wow. We were about the say.
Well, we're going to be married 39 years this Friday the 13th.
This coming Friday, that's right.
Is it gonna be on a Friday again, the 13th?
Yes, and that's exactly what it was then.
Friday the 13th.
Well,
I thought
Lucky
you
day.
were back from overseas.
Didn't it, Jack? Find that.
Sure.
I thought you'd already gone home, huh?
Yeah,
That's
he's
his
went
lucky
back.
day.
Where's that,
And then he got transferred.
Larry and Mom were?
Yeah.
I got myself transferred to the
Somebody's
West
got
Coast.
all.
Well, he was in there telling about how Pop come to, that somebody went to see Aunt Stella, didn't he? And somebody told his Aunt Stella and he'd come along with them. And that's where they got claimed in that dowry or something.
Who is that?
Mom.
There's nothing in the one I've got. Because I've been copying it, but summer I've run into a
Oh, he
stalemate.
said something about the blacksmith come with it, somebody?
He told his actions off on the floor under her horse. He thought she flew.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he knew this John Geisinger.
Knew the doctor, and they used to come together.
Any
Well, when I
story-
decided to marry this gal, she was staying with Gladys down in Salt Lake, so I buzzed down there and
She had a couple of proposals down there too.
I hustled down there and I thought, well, we'll get some minister, but we'll buy our groceries first because we was going camping through Yellowstone Park. We got a tent and a bunch of stuff, and I even bought some canned potatoes, which I never lived down because you didn't buy those things in those days.
You bought all those things before you got to say yes?
Yeah, well, no, before we found the minister. So then we got hunting around, and the ministers was out playing golf and one thing and another.
Saturday afternoon.
Saturday afternoon, yeah. The license cost $2.50. I didn't want to blow that either, so we went to.
Didn't she have 2.5?
Well, no,
I had to
the
buy her
whole
wedding
thing.
dress.
Oh, well.
So we started. We was going
Talk
to
about
stop.
poverty.
Stop at Farmington, which is a little town down the road, and I guess I must have only had eyes for her because I missed Farmington.
It's off the road just a little.
Yeah, and we went chugging right on through, and next thing we knew, we was clear to Ogden. That was a fur piece, and it was about 11 o'clock, and we rounded up justices of peace and a couple of witnesses off of the street that thought we was drunk or something. But anyway, we got married and we stayed in the Broom Hotel. Isn't that right?
Was that before
And
welfare?
they asked us, did we want an inside room or an outside room, and we didn't know the difference, so we took the inside because it was cheaper, and it was hotter than no windows.
Never heard of
This is
that.
more like a broom closet. Exactly.
You can't even breathe in those inside rooms in summertime.
Still moving around up there.
The tape, yeah.
All right, Bob, what do you remember?
Well, I'm the youngest, and they told me to shut up.
Any stories about your parents, anybody?
Yeah, it's still moving.
Okay.
Oh, there's lots of them. There is lots of them if we could just think.
Well, Pop, when he come here, he said I had an immigrant car and had a bunch of stock on it, and he said that when he drive in Twin Falls, he said he didn't have no place to go. He saw a barn over there across the street from the railroad track, and he went and he drove his stock in the car in the barn.
Right down Main Street.
And here
Sure,
come the
sure.
guy that owned the barn and says, "What the heck you doing in here?"
Well, when did the Jackies come
And he said,
out here?
he said he finally talked that guy, let me stay in there overnight.
Dad
came out in 1911.
1911. And
First, alone?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, he was out here before that.
Well, to buy the place, but then he came in
He moved in
1911.
Yeah, he moved here in 1911.
And there wasn't anything on the place, and he had to build the shack for them to live
He
in, and
come out here-
corrals for the animals. And he brought the animals with him, so he didn't have any corrals built, you see. So he left them down in this horse barn in town
Ride
for
on the train.
2 or 3 days until he could
Immigrant car.
build the corral for the animals. And then the folks, Florence and Mother and the kids, when they came, said that he was in the house churning butter and had a calf in the house.
And we arrived in Twin Falls on about the 4th day of January, and
1912, and it was cold, and the snow was deep, and Aunt Lou was with Mother, and we 3 kids, and Dad had come to meet us, and the train was late, so he had gone back home, and we had nobody to meet us, and we finally got down to the old, a taxi took us downtown, and then they took us out the Oxford rooms, and we stayed there overnight. The next day, we got one of these open taxis, whatever, drove around.
Shays, hacks.
Yeah, hack of some kind. Drove around the mile section, and they said there was a new shack over on this particular place. And we went there, and they had a little cabin house, and churned butter. So we found the place.
Was he glad to see you?
Huh?
Was he glad to see you when you got
Oh,
there?
I'm sure. We were glad to see him.
Figured that they could always know.
Yeah.
Well, one of my biggest thrills was when, well, it was after Mother died, and Dad and Bob and I went up to Canada. And it was my first trip to see where Dad was born and where he had grown up, see the old stone house. And I really got to know Dad like I'd never known him before. He was so different with his brothers and happy and just...
That's right.
It was just so different, and it was just wonderful to see him that way.
He turned into another person.
He really did, and with his sister, and she was so nice. And Kate, we just had such
Are
a
any of them
wonderful
still
time.
there?
No, the house is there, and of course I saw the
Some of
graveyard
their cousins lived there.
with the stones with so many Jackies on it, and it was just great history for me. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's a trip I never made.
Well,
You better hurry.
Yes.
We're in Canada.
Getting too late.
Kitchener.
Kitchener,
Kitchener, Ontario.
St. Agatha, too.
And I have to tell the story when I was up there. I went up into the room where Dad was born, and there was the picture of Mother and Dad on their wedding day, a huge picture. And Uncle Art asked me if I wanted to take the picture home with me. And we tried to take it out of the frame, and it wouldn't bend. I think you and Helen tried to take it home, and you couldn't get it because you couldn't put it in your suitcase. So anyway, we went. I said I'd love to take the picture. So we went back to Aunt Kate's house, and I asked her if she had some wrapping paper. She had no wrapping paper, no string. So we took newspaper, and we just rolled it around that picture and took some thread and went around and round. That picture looked terrible, but we got it wrapped. Then I had to go through customs with it. And I said, please don't make me unwrap this. It's a family picture of my parents, and I'll never get it wrapped up again. So
They believed you?
He felt sorry for me. I think he said, okay. And he let me go through, and I carried it on my lap all the way home on the airplane. And I'm so glad I had that picture. And
Is it a different one than we've ever seen?
No, it's the same, but it's a large one. It's a big one. It has a chalk on it.
You mean where Mother's standing up and Dad's sitting down?
That's right. But it was a big picture.
I wonder how come he got it.
Well, I think they sent the picture to the family,
Grandma.
and they just always had it in the house. And it was up behind a chest of drawers, and he was showing it to me. And he asked me if I'd like it.
Well, wasn't it in the trunk?
No, it was behind the chest of drawers because it was a huge one. It's that big one. And
Where's the picture now?
I have it
You have it?
hanging up in our hall. In our apartment.
Well, he gave me that one of me and you. He got it out of the trunk he had.
Well, this is it's a big
What is
picture.
the picture of Mom and Dad?
Yeah, on their wedding day.
Oh, I see.
I think I've seen it.
You've seen the
you've seen the
smaller ones,
small
yeah.
Well, who fought the most?
Come on, you were going to
get a
egg
little-
on Gladdy.
Who fought the most?
Oh, fought the most?
Yeah.
Oh, none of us. We got along fine.
All right, Clark.
When we grew up here, my cousin Ruth turned the camera on her a minute. She was...
already had it on.
Oh,
You said you were
Ruth
gonna
and
go
I
on.
grew up together, and we had a lot of fun. We played a lot of games. We played croquet. We played all the kinds of games. Fern was right along with us. Margie.
I can remember when I grew up surrounded by 4 big sisters, you know, dominating.
How did you survive
Well,
that?
you know, it wasn't as bad as I was. I was in the middle of it.
had come along. Well, you know, when I think back, sometimes we did treat him a little bit mean, or maybe it was me that did, because we'd run off and leave him. One time, the little guy he was a cute thing. We were coming home from the orchard. He
had more hair then.
He couldn't keep up with us. And so we just kept going, and he flops down in the dirt and balls, and we just go on home. And that was the last time he ever did that. No matter how slow he was, he came. We didn't go back and get him, we just let him ball.
And Mom used to take him to club, and he'd get up and sing for the ladies. He used to sing, ain't no sense sitting on the fence.
All of us doing
all
that.
by yourself in the moonlight.
Singing.
Can you sing that again? You still remember it?
He used to sing it.
Who could sing it? They all remember it?
Sing it, Howard.
Sing it. Come on.
Raleigh remembers.
How's it go? Let's hear it. Who remembers
I
it?
don't even remember singing that.
No?
You knew all
Oh,
the
it ain't gonna rain no more, no more.
Oh, it ain't no sense sitting on the fence all by yourself in the moonlight. You used to sing that. At the clubs for Mom.
Well, he used to have a bunch of songs, and he sang up in Canada for all the relatives.
He knew all of the popular songs that were popular at that time.
Who was it?
Howard.
And we were playing the piano.
And I like to dance so well.
Another.
And I decided that Betty was going to learn to dance. And I'd get on that piano and I'd say, okay, Betty started dancing. And I'd just play that piano. And Betty would get up and she'd dance like nobody's business.
Another thing Howard did, Paul Galloway was up there playing catch one time. Here coming Howard. And he was left-handed. Boy, we was bragging about it. He can just throw it either hand. He wound up his right hand this time and put it right through the window.
I don't remember that one.
In our house?
Yeah. So we had to go down to the new window.
I think I remember that. And you run so fast that you can see him.
Well, Howard, tell about falling off the cliff down the canyon.
Oh, yeah.
Breaking your hip, was it? Or?
He fell 100 feet.
Story's getting better all the time. You fell farther all the time.
The first time you tell it, it's a little more.
Yeah, the first time it was 60 feet.
Well, I was young.
By the time you got the bottom of
I
it.
just
I think I had everyone more disturbed than I was about that one.
I thought it was 40 feet.
He sent his friend up to the house, and the folks were in town.
Buying
He
groceries.
knocked at the door, and he says, Howard, and he started bawling, and he said, Howard fell down the canyon, Rock Creek Canyon, and he can't get up. And Fern was there, and so Fern jumped on the horse behind the Walker kid, and the way they went out there and find Howard. So they went to some neighbors to get him out of the canyon.
No, we didn't. We went.
I don't know how you went. I know you left with
We
him.
went down the canyon and met Mr. Hardesty and his hired man carrying Howard up out of the canyon on a rope. Do you remember them carrying you up out of the canyon on this rope?
Remembers it.
And that's where we met them. They were about halfway up. So they told me to go in Hardesty's and call home and tell Gladys to get a doctor out there. So I go in and I call her and she's talking to Florence. It's a party line. I try to break in and she doesn't know who's on there.
They both signed alike.
Awfully unorganized. I couldn't get through to her.
I wasn't unorganized.
But anyway,
I was talking to Florence, and here one of these people would bawl and say, get a doctor, and Florence would say, well, I can't find the folks. They'll come to the store, and Carl and most. And Fern said, get a doctor. And I thought it was the same person. I thought, well, what's she bawling?
Hey, you're on the air again.
You flashed up high and I was all
What are we doing now?
Well,
Speak up.
I remember one story
You'd be
about
surprised,
Howard
you got
and
some pictures, it's
Raleigh,
pretty dark.
and we slept upstairs, and it was all one big room, but there was a canvas in between. Gladys and I had one side. We were on the neat side, and the boys were on the boy side. And one night we heard this terrible commotion, and Howard had a dream and gathered up all Raleigh's clothes and started downstairs with them, and Raleigh was roaring at him. He said, "You little runt, bring my clothes back up here."
Little runt.
Little runt.
It sure was a dream.
Yeah.
Was not a dream.
Well, they tell me.
I don't remember that. I must
I don't know.
What's the biggest commotion?
I must have slept.
Just walk across. Well, did all of you go to the same school, or were there different schools, or?
No, we all went to Twin Falls.
No, when,
Different schools.
yeah, they went, the older ones went to Lincoln, but I went the last 2 years of grade school in the Washington school. And then the younger
went to
kids
We
went to
started in
Washington.
the Washington.
Where did you go?
No, I split too. I went to a couple of years or 3 or something in Lincoln, and then I switched to Washington.
Now we don't have Washington and we don't have the high school.
Or Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln's gone.
Lincoln's
All
gone.
of them.
Barbara, can you sit back?
Well, were all of you
Yeah.
good
Howard.
students?
Yeah, that's good.
Good, sure.
Good kids.
I may not take a deep breath, but I'm good.
I don't know if it's good or not. They tore every darn school down.
Yeah. We were raised in the time where the teacher was on a pedestal
After I'm
and you were, the principal was held in awe. We didn't dispute any of their teaching. We went right along with them. When we went to grade school, you had to go into the marching. Remember that?
Sure, we had to march.
They played the phonograph. And
Yes.
marched left, right, left, right.
You didn't walk on the grass.
Do you remember that old long-legged Guernsey cow we used to have? By golly, I had Pop made me milk it, and every time I milked it, he kicked me out of the barn, out the door. And I got mad, and I beat up on the cow, and he come around and give me the dickens. And I tried telling him he just couldn't milk that cow. Oh, I can milk it. And you know, he got down and milked that cow, and it kicked him clear out of the barn too, and he sold it down there. That's the truth.
Well, who used to kill the chickens? Mom said that somebody, the brothers would do it or something?
No, Raleigh wouldn't.
I did it.
You did it?
Rolly was too tender.
They laid their hand on a chopping block and we took it. And the folks in
You
the
were
town
afraid of blood.
on every Saturday, and we had to get a chicken ready for Sunday.
No, I just remember picking the feathers off.
Just more of a pop kill.
I just chopped their
Dad
heads.
did most of it.
You chopped their heads off.
Yeah,
There was only, I only did one chicken. Water and hand us a chicken and
You
say,
did one?
I did one. I swung the axe and missed him the first time.
Did you hit your hand?
No, it was on those chopping blocks. The next time I cut it clean off, but that was the end of it.
Well, you know, when we moved to
I don't like
Washington,
to do
there were no chopping blocks. We had no trees or no pieces of wood. No, Lester come up with the idea of using the cow dehorners, putting the chicken's head in right in the hole where the decapitated them.
Did you ever wring their neck?
Oh, Carl was the best one for
He
doing
used to
that.
step on their head and pull their legs.
Just wring their neck like
Carl's the
so.
one
Now
I
let's not get so gory.
There's a lot of ways to
I'm
do it.
sorry I brought this subject up.
It's no good.
Well, I got one other subject, it might be a little bit better.
Yeah?
When I was up in, or when people come to visit me up in Washington, you know, sometimes I ask them to go for a boat ride.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
And Carl come up there to visit me, and Florence, and a few other ones, and so we went out to the Columbia River, and I took everybody for a boat ride except Carl. I mean, the boat was full, and we all went up the river quite a ways, and we come back, and then we unloaded, and I said, Carl, you want to go along? And Carl, he said, yeah, he'd like to go. So he got in the boat with me, and John, our younger son, he wanted to water ski a ways, so we let him water ski a ways, and he dropped off, and then Carl, we went way up the river and come back down, and we got down to quite a little below where our car was and run out of gas. And Carl, he got kind of worried, and I did too.
Columbia River.
Yeah, in the Columbia River. And anyhow, I said, Carl said, what do we do now? And I said, well, I said, I don't know. So we pulled her over to shore, and then we said, well, we'll just walk across over there, and up on the side there's a man I know, and maybe we can borrow some gas, or he can get us right back up to the car. And so we walked across and turned out we was on an island. There was just as much river on the other side as what we was on the other side. Both sides was the same. So we started working at that boat to get it around so we could get over to the other side. And Carl, he done some flagging. He finally caught somebody that pulled us back up to where the car was. So Carl, he kids me about that every time he sees me. We talk about it.
I never did get to ride your boat.
Come on up.
Be sure there's gas in it when you go.
Yeah.
Did you ask about the wedding? When they get married or anything?
Who?
These people?
Yeah, we've
I
heard
did-
many
okay.
of the wedding stories. Is there any
Okay.
we missed that you know of?
No, not that, no.
Yeah.
I had one that's kind of funny when I was growing up. I was about 10, 11 years old, I guess. And we used to have a vinegar barrels out there, out the old shop. And Mother gave me a vinegar jug, one of these ceramic jugs one day, and asked me to go out and get some vinegar and bring it in the house. And so I picked it up and went out there, and Dad was shoeing a team of horses. And I went in and filled the jug up and put the cork back in, started back out. I walked in behind that team of horses. He was shoeing a little bit too close. One of them let go, and he broke I had the vinegar jug right up and holding in my chest like this, and broke the vinegar jug. Didn't touch me at all.
Did you get wet?
What do you think, Philip?
Did you get a licking?
You didn't even get tickled. I think I got a few words from Dad. I don't remember.
I've heard about that vinegar stuff too. It seemed like wouldn't it be first apple cider and then it turned to hard cider?
Raleigh was always
Yeah, with the hard cider and then there was vinegar.
Roger, he don't know anything about that.
Where is Roger?
Oh, he's not
He
that
got away.
smart. I thought I could stay
Dad
out
used
too,
to,
but
didn't he stash the bottle away somewhere so Mother wouldn't see it?
Who?
Dad?
That was medicine.
Oh, yeah, that's
And it would turn to hard cider and,
No, you
No,
got
it
that
was
wrong.
moonshine he found
He,
out.
he was out mowing hay one.
well, I know about that. There goes, yeah.
He was mowing hay one time, and he run into a jug of whiskey.
And broke one.
Broke one, and
And these were 5 gallon,
No, gallon.
huh? I know the big one. Okay.
We went high to 5 gallons, we got one.
Anyway, it was good bootleg booze that he had stashed away out in the shed.
Wait a minute. It looks like there's some little stories going on the side here that.
Too many in the windows.
Hey, Mom, what is this? You telling another story? It sounded pretty interesting for what I could hear.
Why don't you have Florence tell one about she and Helen getting in a fight and they were chasing each other around the house and their mother came out to stop them and I think it was Florence wrapped the muddy sack around his mother's neck. You get it with that, Florence. Helen really loved that.
What was this?
I remember those hair pulling contests.
I remember
Gladys said they never had any fights out there.
yeah.
They weren't fights, they were just
I remember the
arguments.
first time I outran Florence and boy,
I
that
think
was
there's some things they remember they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one
She
time.
chased me out the back door and I ran for the cornfield.
I remember one time.
Motivation, huh?
Florence had a date with Carl. We was eating out in the tent out there, and I come in the house there, and Carl was sitting in the front room there, and Florence was getting ready to go out with him. I said, Mom, there's a whole lot of bugs out in the tent there, and boy, she got mad as a wet hen.
I know it. That was a no-no. You said anything about a bug in the house, that was like
She better be allowed to bugs.
right. That was terrible. If anybody had a bug, you know, the early people, sometimes they'd borrow an old robe from an Indian or something, and they'd get bed bugs, and so, or have a hired man that came along.
No, some of you are making extra noise, which is going to be
Yeah,
picked
this
up in
is-
this. This comes.
And so, if there was ever anything that even looked like one, while we got the word, keep still.
You twins went with the folks to Canada, to Western Canada. Do you remember anything about that trip?
Lester went too.
Well, Lester now.
He was the oldest.
Well, I just remember Dad was so busy looking at the scenery and the river was down here and we just about ended up in the river.
Well, I remember
And
going
the
up.
road up in Canada, remember, it was just
Seemed like it was a
slick.
prairie.
It was slick, and it was wet, and we thought we were in the deep gutters on the side, and all these cars that had gone off the edge, and we were scared stiff that we were going to be another car on the edge and down in the ditch, but Dad was
What
able to.
year did you go?
1937.
What was the first car you had?
Well, this was a 1936 Chevrolet. It was the first car we had that we thought would make it. Chevrolet.
First car Dad ever had was a Ford.
No, that was Chevrolet.
Well, yeah, but there's no that trip.
But we camped the whole time, and we.
Pop took $100 along on that trip, and I believe he brought 99 back.
And we went up to Uncle John's house, and he didn't know we were coming.
Yeah, but that was the one.
And Mother went into his little shack there, and
You
saw
swore
how dirty it was.
You swore you went into a blacksmith shop.
Oh, it was so filthy, and she said she wouldn't cook in there until she cleaned it up. So she scrubbed that.
Actually, that house inside was painted black. I mean, the stuff. I never seen nothing like it.
Yes, yes. Okay, bye-bye.
We went up through northern Idaho, up 93, and I had to get out and open some gates to go through people's places to go through that highway.
Okay, now we can sing Happy Birthday.
Sure.
Go.
Get up.
Well, we gotta wait. Donna isn't here.
Don't start it too high, Dad.
Hold it, nobody's there yet.
Donna isn't here.
Let's see a picture of the cake, Larry.
Okay.
All right, the cake.
Gonna keep it flowing here.
What's on there, Larry?
All right, here we go.
Happy birthday, Larry.
Okay, here's the other one.
Come on.
Here we go. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, dear all. Happy birthday to you.
Mine is Sunday, Joe's is Monday, and
Mine's the 21st.
Oh, you all had birthdays.
In July.
Hey, it's an ice cream cake.
Line up, everybody.
Sure, I'm 39. And holding a long time.
I just have to stick to all our family.
Matthew.
Why don't you cut for a while while they cut it? You know, I didn't get you. Let me get behind and get you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, come here.
I'll have to find out.
Just hold it right here. You don't have to do anything. Just hold it there.
Hold it here.
Don't hit anything. Okay, look through there.
Yeah, what do I press?
You don't press anything. It's on. You just look for me.
Okay. How come it looks blue?
How come it? Because I'm wearing blue. See?
Ah.
See, now I can see myself on the TV, so I know. Uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay. There you go.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on. It's doing
Right.
fine.
Steve, why don't you wind up this,
Wind it up?
Yes.
Oh, thanks a lot. I'll just
think of
just take a picture.
Think of something interesting to say.
Well, it's amazing being here with all these people who are all connected to one family.
It's true. You don't have that, do you?
Especially since I have such a small family. So it's really a privilege, and it's fantastic to see. And it's a real blessing.
Good.
Kind of a circus too, isn't it?
Tell us your name and how old you are.
Yeah, how old are you?
I don't know. 37.
How long have you been married?
13 and a half glorious years.
He said
It's
the
on
right
tape,
thing,
right?
yes.
What's your name, son-in-law?
Oh, my name's Steve.
What's your name, kid?
What's the rest of it? We don't know it all.
Steve Weiler.
Weiler?
Weiler.
Right. And where are you?
Spell it.
Who is that back there? What?
Where are you from?
New York.
Where were your
Originally.
parents from?
And my parents are from Vienna.
Right.
And so I have a totally different background, I guess, than most people here.
Very true.
So I'm bringing in something new into the family.
Fresh blood.
Fresh blood, right.
Well, where is that fresh blood? Sure. Where's Rebecca?
I don't know.
I haven't seen her all day.
Let's see if this
I bet she's
takes.
having a ball with
All right, I'm still going.
42, well, I just cut you.
County chairman from Jerome because they
You won't let me come see you now, will you?
Sure.
You consider this one.
Oh, listen, I want to tell you, I'm just one of those people, I'll try to convert anything. I just think that no one's hopeless. Surely someday they'll see the light.
Well, you think they're gonna have a woman vice president?
You want to use for Jackson, Wednesday?
I was from Hart, Whit was from Mondale, but I'll make some.
You'll compromise for Jackson.
No, I
Oh,
like
what's wrong with
Mondale.
Jackson? He's the one you ought to have.
Well, he's better than what we got.
Well, you can't win. Boy, I remember one time I said something about Kennedy and she goes through me like a house.
Well, they knew he's fighting.
I didn't say very much.
Well, they ain't no use to saying anything.
Well, I figured at least one black tie dinner. I mean, after all.
At least.
At least.
I mean, this is
It's summer season, I know.
Ever eaten at the Saratoga in Caldwell?
No,
You should
I'm
come
going
and
to.
see us. It's the nicest place.
I'm not.
Or we'll take you to the Tico Tico. That's
I'm
the
going to come see you one of these times. I'll surprise you. Say roof, roof. Say roof.
Hi, Dad.
Hey, Beck.
Oh, no.
Why don't you get in there?
Here, I'm going to get in there. Look at that. Can I take a piece of that?
She'll hop in there.
Hey, I get to ride in the back.
Okay. Right. Your daughter want to come?
In there. Come on, Lisa. I don't want to scratch you. Everybody's helping me.
Come on, anybody else? Hey, Steve, why don't you get in and take pictures as we go? Think it'll be too bumpy?
Come on, Margo.
I think I got the move. Oh, this car can handle it, can it?
Thanks, sir. We enjoyed that ride. Oh, look, he's going to have to clean this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're
That's the
welcome.
first time I have been here.
Oh, that's fun.
Ride in your truck.
Did you get that?
Bye.
Did you get that?
Granddad.
Get in
It's
there.
my
Well,
Tell great granddad. It's always
Good to see you.
granddad's
You're taking off too. Hey, you better not leave too early.
Well,
You might get home before sundown.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Your mannerisms, yeah. Well, I noticed the older you get, the more you seem to act like your parents.
Really? I think after Bob.
Yeah, I noticed
don't
it with Steve. You know, when I first married him, he was a rebel against, would say.
Steve?
Later, Harley. See ya.
Oh, boy.
How'd you like those whiskers? Huh?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, probably a big sport. Goodbye.
Bye, Roger.
Goodbye. Oh, yeah. It'd be pretty hard to catch you. What? Because they'll probably know it, but the computer could trace it back to you. Follow forward.
I see what you mean. And he says,
We're going to be here till Friday.
what do you do with the dog? I says, you
In
just
fact, that's my parents' house.
down
39 years.
come on the hill or you
On that,
same way you get a feel you're listening to your trot.
okay, you can start.
This is Spot, and he's a year old and he's hyper, but he's going to be a nice dog, we think.
Yeah.
And the flower is a clematis.
Okay, when
And I had to move it. It was in a different location, and when we built onto the house, we had to move it, so it's not quite as pretty as it was, but I love it.
oh, it's beautiful. Well, how about over here?
There. That's a snapdragon. There's little leaf cutter bees buzzing around the snaps. The leaf cutters are the ones that pollinate the alfalfa seed.
So you want to keep plenty of them around.
Yeah, we have a lot of them. This one here is dianthus, the little red one.
It's beautiful.
That's about all I've got.
I love the bachelor buttons.
They'd be pretty if I'd get in and pull all of the old blossoms off, but that's a lot of work.
So what are you going to do? Let all this go back to grass?
Yes,
And keep them around the edges instead?
We might, or we might move the fence in.
Oh, I see.
Make less space. Just
Right.
put that into pasture.
Right. Okay.
Over there, when we were first married, and this one here is the oldest baby.
It's a cute baby.
There, you know, and then I flew home.
I remember that. Yeah, you came with
Yeah,
the
'cause
kids and us.
we all stayed out Earl and Ethel's.
We had the cat in the car, I think.
No, that's when you were
Was that
going to
another
go, that was when we took you, I came down and
and
brought
took
you
us-
up to the plane.
When we went back.
We, we
yeah,
had,
the
I
cat
had
got
just
sick.
brought Tommy, the cat the folks had, down. He was ours. I brought him down, and he'd only been here like about a month, I think. And so when they and your mother went back, that was for a 50th anniversary, wasn't it, in Canada?
Well,
We
didn't you
decided
go
that
to
we
Iowa
couldn't leave
first? Didn't you go to 2 that time?
Nuts, and
Well,
then
you're sure lucky Boise isn't any bigger than it is.
Right. But you can't go reserve, you can't go any further. When you're going down Broadway, you can't go any further over there than reserve, so you have to turn one way or the other. You turn right on reserve, and then you head toward that hill.
Well, you know, we usually come up to your place from the south. At that time we went to the wedding, we brought by your place.
Right.
I was coming from the north, and everything was completely different, and I could not find out how to get
I'm crushed.
across that freeway to get over to the other side where I needed to be. But I blundered around until I found it.
So that we could stop and spend the night with her.
Oh.
She keeps saying to me, she says, you gotta stop and see us. I said, Donna, you're in the wrong place. If you were in Petalin, I'd stop. Every time. So why you moved to Petalin? She says, I won't do it. And I said, no. Just terrible.
Why don't you come from Olympia and come across White Pass and to Yakima and then over to us and spend the night, and then it's not so far.
Is White Pass a better road now?
It isn't
We
too bad.
came up with White Pass, but we said, surely they're already gone. So,
But it's a good road. I don't know the last time I saw it.
maybe Saturday.
I bet you
Iowa. My parents were married in 1906 in June. And they decided they would move to Idaho. So Dad sold the business and we moved into town that summer and stayed in town that summer, and he left in the fall for Idaho. And he came on an immigrant train. He had several cows, pigs, chickens, and the furniture in this car.
One horse.
One horse. They came out into Wyoming, and he said he visited with this veterinary from Boise, and he had a load of horses. And he said the horses all got sick, and they just pulled that car of horses off the track and let it sit there, and they come on out here. And he always wondered about that veterinary, whatever happened to him and the horses sitting out there in the middle of Wyoming in 1911, in December. So then he built the shack, and we got this postcard from him. He says, "You can come now. I built the shack," and he built it in 2 weeks. And so my Aunt Lou, my mother, and myself, and Helen, and Roland got on the train, and it took us 3 days to get there. And we ate chicken sandwiches until we were sick of chicken sandwiches. And Raleigh was a little tyke, and he'd run up and down the aisle of the train, and on all fours. He didn't, not on his knees. He was on all fours. And the porter would come along and pick him up and play with him. He was the cutest little guy you ever saw. About 1.5 years old, and he had bright red hair and great big blue eyes, and he was a cutie. Well, we got to Twin Falls, and of course we were late. The train, Dad had come in to meet us, and the train was late. So Dad had gone home, and we had to get downtown, and we finally found a place to stay overnight. And the next morning we got in a kind of a surrey and drove clear around the section. The snow was about 3 foot deep, and it was cold. And we finally found the shack where our dad was.
Well, can I change it a little
All
bit?
right, change it.
Well, I understand that when you came into town, Dad was not there to meet you.
No.
And like you said, he came, and they had, and you
He
had
came
to
and
find
went
a
home.
place to stay all night, and then Mother had to ask. She asked someone where he was, and they told her down the road, and then you all went down there, and he was surprised to see you because he didn't know you were there, according to her, on the tape.
Well, he'd gone to meet the train, and the train was late, so he'd gone home.
Oh, so he didn't see you then? That
No,
was
he
right.
didn't see us.
That's right.
So we stayed overnight, and the next morning we made this tour around the section.
And you had to find out where he was.
We couldn't find him.
Well, where was that Nellie and Uncle Cliff this time? Didn't they come out the
They
same time?
came out in the fall or earlier. And they were already
Well, they were already
here.
here.
I thought that you all came together.
No,
so too,
just Aunt Lou came with us.
Was that shack on the same property?
Yes.
The house was built?
We lived in the shack
That was
until
behind
we came in 1912 of January, and they built the home in 1914. So we lived in the shack for 4 years.
Wow.
Or, well, no, 2 years to be. And it was a little shack. Just had a curtain. It made 2 rooms with a curtain in between. And then I don't know where we all slept, because our aunt lived with us, and there were 5 of us.
Well, who was born in those 4 years into that shack?
And then Gladys was born in March after we
so
arrived.
Well, Mother was pregnant then.
Oh, yes.
Besides with the little boy.
Very. Well, what else can you
Can
remember?
I say
Yeah,
something?
Please.
My father was born in St. Agatha, Ontario, Canada, August the 15th, 1878. And in the year 1900, he came to the United States. He was an apprentice blacksmith. He had $10 in his pocket and his railroad ticket. His father asked him if he needed a little more money, and he said no, he had plenty. And he went from there to Iowa and met an older man that he knew who hired him for not much a month. It was just practically nothing, and he worked for him. And I don't remember whether it was this man or not that was kind of excitable, but he kept a gun under his pillow, and he would wake up in the middle of the night and wave this gun around, and it kind of frightened my dad. But anyway, that was one of the stories. So he
great.
bought a gun, yes, and I don't know what's happened to this gun.
So how did he
But-
meet your mother?
Well, Mother was a school teacher in Iowa, and he used to go by the school, or he worked right close there, and he met her that way.
So
And they
how
were
long
out-
did he court her?
He would borrow chalk is how he met her, according to this other tape we have. We'd go over to the schoolhouse and ask for some chalk. Of course, he kept going every day.
There was an excuse.
That was an excuse, and she'd be late going home to supper.
So how long did they court before they were
Probably
married? you
about
know?
2 years, I
Well,
think.
he came about 1900.
They didn't get
But
married
they
until
were married in
1906.
I think about 2 years. I don't think they met right away.
She was the one who threw the ashes under the horse
Yes.
in the shop. And the horse
As the horse was
stampeded down
going
the
by,
road,
she was going
had
to
a
school.
runaway.
What is this? What do you mean about the ashes?
Well, he was cleaning his forge out in the blacksmith shop.
He
brought
cleans
him
it
out
out.
to the door, and keep them out just as Mother was going by in her buggy going to school, and the horse didn't like the ashes being thrown out under it, so it took off and had a runaway, and I don't know how she ever stopped it.
She was kind of cute in her diary. She would tell about parties, and they had lots of parties in those days, and she would name all the people who were coming to this party, and then she might add little, and Mr. Jacky.
Very formal.
Very formal. We lived in this little town of Wallace. It was a cute little place. Cat-a-cornered from the schoolhouse was the store, the blacksmith shop, the roller skating rink, the post office. So it was a little community all together there. And they had one weekend they'd have dances in this dance hall. The next weekend they would have a roller skating party. So it was quite a busy little. And our grandmother just lived down the road the ways, and about a half mile or so.
And when I started doing this, I was copying her diary, and I started in the month of May. And it seems like in those days, they didn't just hang May baskets on the 1st of May, they hung them the whole month of May. And they were always, the adult young people would fix these baskets, and a bunch of them go to the neighbors and put the basket on the door, and then they would run like crazy and hide, and you were supposed to run out of the house and find them, and then you had a big party. And of course, I think most of them wanted to be caught so they could go to the party. But I thought that was kind of interesting.
Did you do that when you got out here, or that
We
just...
always just hung them the 1st of May, but they did it the whole month.
And Dad said he had a bicycle. He'd go see my mother with this bicycle. And in Iowa, the mud, it's clay mud and terrible.
He called it gumbo.
Gumbo. And it'd pack on the bicycle tires until he said he had to carry his bicycle home on his shoulder. And so then he bought his first horse, which was old Myrtle, an old white horse.
And Myrtle's the horse that came to Idaho.
What, the only one?
Well, is Myrtle the horse that he had to hide?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, tell that story.
Howard, you know that?
Well, I kind of know how it goes on the tape,
Lester can tell.
but back in them days, while he went and bought this horse Myrtle, well, I have to go back to the bicycle again, I guess, because he bought this bicycle because he wanted some transportation, and I guess it was a nice day, and so he rode it off to another town. It was 12 miles away, and it rained while he was there, and so when he come back, he started out in that bicycle, and that mud got up in the wheels, and it wouldn't go, so he had to carry that thing 12 miles back to his home, and so he decided he's going to have a horse, and so he went and bought this Myrtle, and it turned out that somebody had stole this horse, and this is kind of the way I got it, and they sold it to Pop, and so the sheriff was after this horse, and he come out to get this horse, and Pop knew he was coming, and he said that he got together with a friend of his, and they took this horse, I think it was 30 miles this one night, into a pasture 30 miles away, and when the sheriff come out the next day, well, he asked Pop where the horse was, and Pop said, oh, it's down in the pasture. And the sheriff went down the pasture and looked around. He come back and said he didn't see no horse down there. And so Pop said, oh, I don't know, it was there last I knew. And so the sheriff, he went away then, and so I guess Pop left that horse down there quite a while, and I guess he finally went and got it. But anyhow, in the meantime, I don't know whether it was a little time passed, and the old man that owned it died. And so I guess then there was nobody worried about the horse being stolen, so Pop said he was in town one day with that horse, and he seen the sheriff, and he hollered at him and said, here's that horse you was looking for.
Oh, so we have a horse.
He said the sheriff just laughed.
Yeah, the sheriff just laughed then.
The
Don't
man
think
had
the horse was stolen, though. As I recall
No,
the story,
there's
had
a lien.
on
He
it.
had a lien on it.
I believe that was what it was. Yeah, I kind of forgot just what it was. There's something that they wanted that horse.
Yeah.
This man evidently had a bad reputation anyway.
So that's why the sheriff was, after it was back, you know, Dad had it. But they had to take it out, clear out of the county.
Yeah. Well, he took it 30 miles according to that
it was
tape.
over the county line.
Yeah.
And he kept it there until the next spring.
Uh-huh.
The tape we had.
But Dad was quite a entertainer when he was young. He had a lot of songs and dances that he would do, recitations.
What kind of voice? Baritone, bass?
Probably
He did comedy.
Like Howard?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's kind of tenor.
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 He loved slapstick comedy.
Oh, he could kick his, he was always kicking his nose, or he could say he could kick his nose with his
Kick
foot.
his nose.
Remember that?
And he put his hand right in front of it, sound like he hit his nose, you know? Just make a big noise.
And he loved circuses, and he loved holidays, and we did. We went to many
That's where
places.
it comes from.
Yeah, right. Well, what about Sadie? What was her full name?
Sadie Elizabeth, Sarah Elizabeth
Wilson. Jacky.
What was
she was a serious type, a school teacher.
Red hair.
And red hair, and she needed somebody like Dad for an outlet. She couldn't keep up with him in a lot of things because she had a hard time taking a joke or.
No sense of humor.
Well, who do you think takes after her?
Betty. She was a gentle person.
Very gentle person.
I always said that a woman that could raise 10 kids and not raise her voice, and she could do that.
Well, I never heard her say an unkind word about anybody.
She never raised her voice even.
She never was partial with anyone.
She was a wonderful mother, really.
But I think she was like a top sergeant. We knew exactly what we were supposed to do, and we did it.
Well, who enforced that you did it?
We didn't have to exactly. We knew we were supposed to clean the house, and we were, and things like that.
There was something about her
Air of
that
authority,
you
huh?
felt you should please her.
Well,
You
I
wanted to
remember
please her.
She always was so great about. They'd go to the movies, and she'd come home, and she'd tell me the whole story to all the movies for me to be there wiping the dishes while she washed them to keep me entertained. And I always remember one of her most favorite songs was "After the Ball Was Over." She just loved that, and
she sang that all her life.
all the time. And she was always telling stories, and she would read to us. I've had all my fairy tales read to me by her, and so many times when it got to be 9 o'clock, why we'd be sitting around the table, and she'd supposed to have been reading to us, and she'd fallen asleep with the book right here, and we'd poke her, come on, and let's hear the rest of it. But working all day, I know she was tired, because I know how I've gotten. And
What did she do? You mean just working in the house?
Just working in the house.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yes,
10
canning and
children.
washing.
Right, 10 children, right.
So much more than
But
we
then
have
she
today.
would
Made
help
bread.
Right.
every Thursday. We made bread.
Well, what was her day like then? I mean, a woman in that time, say when they first got out here, even as you remember.
Very regimented week. Scheduled, yes. Monday was wash day, and then you start ironing in the afternoon, and you might finish it on
That's
Tuesday.
where you get it from. She has that
And,
each day.
We made bread 2 days
we
a
lose
week.
it?
I think it was
Tuesdays and
Tuesdays and Thursdays, yes.
And there's one.
And we cleaned on Saturday, and you did that to get the work done.
And I cleaned the living room and my bedroom and the dining room, and my mother cleaned the kitchen and the bathroom and her bedroom when I was home.
And sent all the kids to Sunday school on Sunday.
That's right.
And one thing about her, when you was working outside, when you come to the house for a meal, like at 12 o'clock noon, if you was there 3 minutes after 12, you was late. That was right. You better be there. You didn't get nothing to eat. I mean, the days were that way. Breakfast was at a certain time. Dinner
What
was
time
at a
was
certain
breakfast on the farm? 6:30.
6:30, 7,
Depends
long
on
in there.
when we
I
went
don't
to
think
school.
so. I would say 7.
About 7, I think, usually.
Because you went out to milk the cows.
Yeah, we had to milk ahead of the.
Clean the chickens.
But I don't ever remember anyone ever being late at the table.
We were hungry.
Well, I was late a time or two, and I heard about it too.
Oh, you were. I think maybe Helen was too, and you.
Probably on it.
But and we all had a certain place to sit at the table.
Oh, you
About
did?
right.
Yeah, Dad sat at the and Raleigh next to him, and I was next to Raleigh.
And we'd slice a whole loaf of bread when I was home and put it on the plate, and usually it was all eaten.
But I learned many of my manners from my sisters, and you sit at a table, don't put your elbows on the table, and hold your fork right, and don't use your left hand,
Well,
and do this, and sit up straight. I've heard so many times, sit
That
up
came
straight.
from your sisters, not
My
your mother? Or?
mother and my sisters. So I learned many things. So.
Well, what were holidays like? You know, like
They were
Christmas
great.
and Easter?
Great.
I look forward 3 months to all of it.
2 great days in the year.
Take like
and
Christmas.
4th of July.
Take
how
like
about
Christmas
Thanksgiving?
with a big family. Well, even if we just got 1 or 2 or 3 presents apiece, while time you piled them all together, there's many kids, we had a pretty good stack.
Were all Christmases pretty good? I mean,
Great. They're all wonderful.
were the presents handmade or bought? Or?
No, they were
bought.
usually bought, but they would be quite simple a lot of
Well,
times.
I remember one Christmas tree we had. We didn't have Christmas trees then. You had to go so far to get them. And we just took an old branch of a tree and wrapped the whole thing with white cloth.
I remember that.
And then we'd string popcorn and cranberries
pretty.
and hang on them.
I
And
don't
then
remember ever not having a
I
tree.
don't either.
we had a tree of some kind.
And we were just as excited about the other one's present as our own.
Yeah, and I
Well,
can.
Gladys and I
You get to
used
play with
to
it,
get a lot of gifts together, and we didn't think anything about it. We just shared. That was
We got those
the way-
little dishes.
We got a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Well, you know what I think was amazing too was even after Mother died, you would write and tell me that, I think Fern, you went over and you found Dad climbing up to get the Christmas things out.
Oh, yes.
He decorated a tree and got out the
He-
ornaments and things.
I'm sure he
even
did the
after she
last
was
year
gone.
before he died. I'm sure he
And for
did.
somebody that old and without Mother to do that is something, I think.
Holidays meant a great deal to him, too.
Yeah.
I think when she died, well, he only lasted 3 more years. And I think that about finished him.
But he used to play the mandolin and sing with the TV and his record player.
He played, what was that he had? What was
Was
that?
it auto harp?
Wasn't
Auto
piccolo.
harp.
No,
Auto
I'm
harp.
thinking that piccolo.
Yeah, the piccolo.
Piccolo.
Uh-huh. And then he used to play a
He said he
potato.
irritated
What was
himself.
that thing, Howard? That potato thing he had.
Jew's harp?
Juice
Was
harp
it?
Jew's harp.
and the
That's the one Florence found in Canada.
mouth organ.
He loved music.
He played by ear.
He could pick up a tune on a lot of instruments.
Dad was a mathematician. He could add columns down by the hundreds and have the answer right now. As fast as you could write them down.
And he said, Jiminy Christmas, when I couldn't get a problem, he couldn't understand having a dumb kid.
Well, who played the piano?
Florence,
Oh, I did.
Mother played a little bit, didn't she?
And Helen and I used to play duets till you wouldn't believe. And we did quite a little entertaining around.
And you gave me some lessons
At the MS
when
and
we
S Club.
brought eggs to you.
Yes.
She gave me some lesson ones, too, in about a week, and then I think she gave up.
I'm glad he gave me some for about a week, and then she gave up.
Well, I think Mother bribed her by taking eggs down to her for me.
I don't believe you boys. Dad allowed you that time to practice or
That's
something.
about right.
I think that he thought the boys should be outdoors,
I don't think
and I don't think it was fair for the boys in the family because they probably would have been good.
probably wasn't very much
Only thing,
eagerness to play.
the girls got to go outdoors quite often, too. You and I did.
Right.
What do you mean, chores outside?
there was a
We
big
worked in the
difference.
field some, and we used to hoe sugar beets the last of June to earn our 4th of July money, and it was hot, and those rows were long, and we got a nickel a row to earn 4th of July money, and then we blew it in one day.
That must have been when he had money. I never get
You
no
were
nickel
lucky
a
I
roll.
never got any money.
I never
I
either.
don't remember getting any
Oh,
money
yes,
either.
but you had 4th of July money.
Oh yes, we got a little bit of money for 4th of July.
And
Yeah,
one
I
year
used to get
Gladys
25 cents.
saved hers and bought the prettiest umbrella, and I was so jealous of her with that pretty umbrella. Do you remember
What
that
color
paper?
was it?
It was
Japanese.
a Japanese one of
Uh-huh.
these
With
oil
flowers.
paper. It was beautiful.
It was pretty.
Boy.
You still have it?
No, I don't know what, I don't even remember when it wore out. But I just loved that thing.
Well, what about the schedule for the guys, with the farm life? What was it like? What time did you get up? What was the first things you did?
Milk the cows.
Got up at about 5 in the morning and went out and milked the cows.
How many cows did you have, say, most at one time?
It varied. We usually had at least, I guess, 8 or 10 around.
All
sometimes
hand?
Well, later we had more cows and got a milking machine.
I don't think Howard ever had one.
No, Howard, I think when he was around, we had about probably 8 or 10.
Yeah, it was all hand milk.
And they used to sing. Howard and Raleigh sang to the cows.
They all sang when they milked them.
Well, you think you've lost your touch, or you still...
Oh, I could still milk the cow.
And the cats line up there and they squirt the milk at them and they open their mouth and get it.
Then after the cows was milked, well, then you fed the livestock and you harnessed the horses, and then you went in for breakfast, and then after breakfast you're supposed to be in the field at 7 o'clock. So you get 5 hours for dinner time, and then you got an hour at lunch, and then we worked till 6. And
You didn't get an hour at lunch. You brought the horses in and you watered the horses, and the time you got in there, well, you lucky if you got 30 minutes for lunch.
all right, that was right.
You never took the harness off at noon. You just took the bridles off.
You had to water them and you had to feed them.
Yeah. Well, you had an hour from the time you left the field till you went back to the field.
What, do you have, 2 on a plow? Is that what it was?
It depends on. You could
Depends
get
on what
up
you
to
was
4 or
doing.
6 sometimes.
Mm.
Usually, we usually run 3 and 4 most of the time.
Should have been 4.
Well,
Dad pushed the poor old horses.
Well, we had 3 on the plow and we put 4 on the harrow.
No.
What were your crops then? Did they
Sugar
change?
beets, sugar beets, hay, grain,
In the early
Some
days, we had a lot of
beans.
orchards.
corn, potatoes.
Some beans.
No,
beans.
no potatoes? Or?
Oh yeah, potatoes. We raised everything
Yes.
on that 30 acres.
He used to win first prizes with the potatoes at the fair. I
The
remember.
Sugar beets.
Sugar beets.
And the sugar beets.
Dad knew how to pick out one without even testing them. Maybe he had 3 that he would.
Well, I'm not sure
And
it was Dad.
Most of the time, though.
He
Who was
helped.
it? You?
We all did.
He had a little more than 30 acres. He would rent. He rented
Oh,
that
he rented-
10 acres, and then he rented the north 10.
He rented a lot of land. He rented clear down by the hospital.
He
Across the road,
Different
both
times.
sides of Martin
he
Street.
farmed while I was there. I think he farmed probably the most, and between him and Raleigh together, they farmed up to about 120 acres. Raleigh would have about 60, and Pop would have about 60, or sometimes Raleigh had a little more than Pop.
Well, how would you describe your quality of life? I mean, like during the Depression years, did you have enough to eat
You mean
then?
first class or second class?
Well, I mean, during the Depression years.
We
did you-
never suffered
went
for
without
food.
We never were hungry.
And our clothes probably was good as the average.
We hardly knew there was a depression.
Really,
We were poor
really,
all the time. Before
I
and
don't
after.
know how my mother did it. She had 6 daughters. Of course, we all weren't there at the same time. But she would sew in the summertime and make our school clothes. And she always made us 2 school dresses and 1 good dress. And now you think of that many daughters, and that's a lot of sewing.
Yeah. Did you all help in that, or were you
Oh,
too
yes.
young at that
Oh,
time?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, Mother was a seamstress. When she was home from her diary, she was sewing for everyone, making their blouses and their skirts and
Wedding dresses.
yes. So
Made
she
the
did a
wedding
lot
dresses.
of sewing.
Whose wedding dress was handmade? Anyone here?
Mother's.
Hers.
No one here had one.
No, we didn't have wedding dresses in those days.
Are we about through, Steve?
We were lucky to
We are
have.
finished, you think?
Close.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky.
getting the valley. What is this called? This is where Twin Falls is, right?
Well, Steve, everything you say is going on this tape.
Well, I know.